Like this.
That's a good thumbnail
Like this.
there, yeah. Perfect. We're here with today's winner, Hassan, playing what deck?
We're playing Purple Luffy. Pluffy.
So tell us about your matchups and why you decided to play this deck.
It's the most consistent deck, and it's literally unga bunga. It's like the deck plays itself, and I used to play a bit of like Dolphy, Blue Dolphy, but then playing this deck, you just realizes you have like 8 searchers, and you have top end, and like you can spam as well like Dolphy, but you also have like late game.
Cool.
So that's kind of why.
So what were your matchups today? So you played Shanks last round, right?
Shanks was last round. My second last round was Purple Luffy mirror match, and my first round was
Lucci?
Yes,
Okay.
Lucci was first round.
Cool.
Yes.
So some good decks there.
Yeah.
So you want to get straight into the profile, okay?
Yeah.
Right, so jumping into the build.
Okay, so we go with the reason you're playing this deck, which is the searchers. So you got Law, which is top 4, and Zoro, which is top 5. So this is Harp Pirates or the Straw Hat purple, and the Zoro is only restricted to purple. But this is literally the main reason why like why Purple Luffy jumps from like even a tier 2 to a tier 1 deck this set, mainly because of you have access to the Trafalgar Laws that OP9 comes, and these were from the structure deck. So with having 8 searchers, this deck is very consistent. Especially this is turn 1. If you go in first, obviously you go turn 1 this, and then you can take a life with the Purple Luffy effect and Zoro again. So you can find your combo pieces very consistently. And we can show you the combo pieces that you usually want to come here.
Good.
So here are the combos. So we got Sangoro, and we got the Luffy Toro here. 4/4. So with these, like, it's crazy. Like Sangoro, everyone knows is broken. On attack, draw a card. Luffy Toro -1 Dawn, play of 5 or less Straw Hat purple. So honestly, like as you see, like you go search 1, 2, and then if you just drop these, it's such a big curve because at that point you have a 6k. So you have a 6k beater, and then you have another 6k and another 8k. So at that point, this is already on turn 3. At that point, 6, 6, 8, and then it's very hard for your opponents to deal with wide board. Especially if you go Luffy Toro, you'll be back at, because you're -1, and you probably took a life. At that point, you'll go back to 8 the next turn, so Sangoro attack will be live. If you attack Sangoro and you have another Luffy Toro follow-up, it is brutal, because at that point they're like, there's 2 8s, there's 2 6s, and if you protect the Zoro as well, there's another 6. It's turn 4. Your opponent at that point, if they go on seconds 2, 4, 6, 8, they're an 8 Dawn. You have 2 8s, 2 6s, 3 6s at that point, right?
Yeah, so you're well ahead at that stage.
Bro, if they can't get rid of anything at that point, it's way too much pressure. And this is how it wins. It's similar how like Blue Dolphy wins, right? With pressure, bodies, overwhelming your opponent, but the difference is with Blue Dolphy, it's like 5Ks, or some of them are 6Ks. But these are 8s and 6s, which means they have to at least attach a Dawn to even pressure with leaders, okay? So yeah, that's kind of the combo you want to get with the Luffy and the Sangoro. And yeah, it's pretty good. And we're gonna go for the other boss monsters, okay? So I'm running 1 Sanji, 1 Kaido, 1 Luffy, and 3 mobs.
So the Sanji and the Luffy are new, right? So what do those cards do?
So the Sanji, what it does is -1 Dawn on play. You can you may remove 1 or more, but in this, if you want to go 1, and then you can rest a 6 or less.
Cool.
So he helps you. He's searchable as well from all your searchers because he's a Straw Hat Pirate purple card, and he helps you push games. Or even scenarios where you are at 7 Dawn and you don't have the combo, you can at least then play the Sanji to pressure board just as a 7k 7 rush swing. Similar how sometimes how green plays Hody, they pressure with a 7 cost 8 and just push. You can do that same with Sanji where you just play for pressure if you don't have the combo, worst case scenario. But in later games, you want to maybe hold this for like, they have a blocker, you go, tap the blocker, I can push for game. Kaido feels that same scenario. Except Kaido synergizes as well, I realized, with some of the 2Ks you run. Well, I'll show you later. And Monkey D. Luffy is another rusher. So all these are rushers, which is kind of the end game, try to push the game. This is a 9-10, 9-10, and a 7-7. So the 10K stats, 7-7 is actually not bad. 9-10, Monkey D. Luffy, again, you said new set. On play, minus one or more Dawn. Usually in this deck, one Dawn you want to. And it gains Rush and draw a card. So this cycles itself.
So what's the reason behind playing 1/1/1?
I was running 2, and sometimes I wanted the removal.
Okay.
Like I didn't want to lin something away to life. I wanted to push the pressure. Like for example, maybe against like green, if they have like if you're trying to finish the game quickly, like what's it called, like hitting like a Cavendish or something, or maybe even against like Teach and stuff.
Okay.
Like you don't want to life them and give them more time with like Linen. Like imagine like the 5 cost that like tap on KO, like -3 Dawn, and on KO draws a card. Like yeah, sure you can get the draw, but then like in the Teach matchup, you don't want to give them time. Like,
so are you happy with the ratio of 1/1/1 so far?
yeah, like Luffy is searchable. Like from my theory on ones here is because you have 8 searchers, you can have tech cards as one-offs, because if you need them, you can find them. And if you don't need them, sure, you can like bottom deck them. But yeah, so the idea of tech cards, from my understanding, if it's in the like the search pool, it's fine to run like maybe sometimes one-offs, because you're like, if for certain situations. I agree, maybe like Monkey D. Luffy like could be like you can have double Monkey D. Luffy, have more consistency. But I realize Kaido pops a 6 and rushes a 10 is like if you're going for board, it's like 2 removals in one go. Like I hit something, I pop something, and I hit something, right? So it's like removing 2 cards if you want to play for board, and if you want to go for game, sometimes Monkey D. Luffy is not enough. Because, I get rush, but you have a blocker, right? So sometimes the Kaido does come in handy, and you do draw a lot in this deck. Sangoro draws, and we're going to go to the event as well that draws. Okay, the other big boss monster is Linlin. You, with this, changes the whole deck playstyle, because you can go very low in life. And even at 1, I've been at 0, and I've been like, yeah, that's fine. Because I can go Linden next turn. I already have a board, have 1 Dawn open for your event, right? And this deck can play with very low life, because you're spamming bodies and everything. You can take sometimes a bit aggressive life with ramping quickly, and this kind of counteracts the taking life of your leader effect, right? So you took life early to get a very good tempo early game, and then later game you can get that life back by pitching one of the cards, right? So, and it it lifes one of the opponent's characters. Usually you want to bottom deck it, but you can't top deck. You can't put on top if you have some scenarios, but mostly the bottom.
Yep.
And that's kind of your boss monsters here. Cool. And we're gonna go to the other cards, I guess, for like the tech cards. So another one that's not in the thing is Bonclays. I'm running 2. Some risks run either 0, 2, or 4. I think 2 is a good medium. The people that run 4 Bonclays are more like super heavy in the boss monsters. They may run like 3 Linlins, like 3 Monkey D. Luffy's, and maybe another 1 or 2 Kaidos. So
I think you probably have to play Bonclay now with, with Teach being in the format, matching a 12k body is pretty good.
In the early lists I've seen in the East, they were running sometimes 0 early, they were running like sometimes 0. But I think as the meta developed in OP9 for them, they were either running 2 or 4. That most lists are either running between 2 or 4, because Teach is such a hard matchup for most decks, but this deck, because you have Bonclay, and because you also have your Sangoros, I'm going to show you a tech for the Teach matchup. In the Teach matchup, you want to save the Sangoros. You don't want to play them, because then they're going to finger pistol them automatically or use removal for them. If you have the Sangoros, try to wait for your 10 Dawn turn. You chop 2 of them, because they're obviously not going to use any on plays with the Luffy Taro. You drop 2 of them. Most likely they could only kill 1. And at that point you can start drawing and get some tempo back, right? So in the matchup for Teach, Sangoro is like, you save it in hand, you drop 2 of them in 1 turn, and if they can't kill even 1, that's gravy. That's literally draw 2. You just, at that point, your advantage is great. Cool. And Bonclays is another reason why Teach is somewhat saveable. Like, maybe save these towards the late game. Like, don't use them for counter for Teach. Like, dropping this, like a Bantham and a Sangoro. If you do this like towards the late game, it gives the teach a hard position. Sorry, I'm gonna flip it here. It gives them a hard position where you either pop the thing that's going to contest their 12k, or they're going to give you a free card draw. So it puts them in a situation where, like, what do they want to pop? So that's kind of the Bentham is used for the ramping, but in Teach is a nice tech card. Even Shanks actually as well. In Shanks you can contest, obviously because it'd be -1, so maybe you have to have one more Dawn, but you can contest the big bodies with Bentham, with Shanks, so it's another thing to think about the meta. And going now for the events, which is, everyone knows this, Gum Gum Giant. It is a broken event, in my opinion, because honestly,
plus 4k draw 2, it's okay.
Plus 4k, pitch a card, which is probably a dead card, draw 2 cards, then you can even use the cards you draw to counter again, because you're still in the counter stage. Like, I've seen situations where, like, I had 2 cards in hand, like, let's say a dead card and this, pitch a dead card, and then I got a 2 and a 1, and I used them to also counter out of an attack. So, like, situations like that where, like, it literally cycles for free, and it should have been 2 Dawn, honestly. Yeah. It should have been 2 Dawn. We take what we can. So, yeah, the event is busted. You have to run 4. Like, there's no ifs and buts. And then we're going to go to the, we'll go to 2Ks here, and then we do blockers last. So, well, actually, yeah, we'll do we'll do 2Ks here. So the 2Ks / blockers, this is Sanji. So Sanji is one of the 2Ks you can play. This is the reason why I actually like playing the 9 cost, where's your man here?
9 cost Luffy?
No, the Kaido.
Oh, okay.
So Kaido can actually put you under range, where if you have a hand where you don't feel you have enough blockers, and if you have a choice between a Kaido, if you don't have Linden, obviously, right, to heal, if you have a Kaido or a Luffy, sometimes if you don't feel that much threatened, you can even go Kaido, and then you can drop these for 3 costs. Because then you're going to be -5 here, and you're obviously going to be less. So a 3 for 6 body is so efficient, and it's a blocker. And it's a 6 cost. So even against removal decks like Teach and Lucci, 6 is a very tricky number for them to hit. And 6k is a very good blocker just because they can't just go base with their leader. But it's also a 2k counter. So yeah. Also again,
pretty good card.
Yeah, really strong cards. And then we're also gonna go for our other searchable 2k, which is the Usohachi. If you have 8 on, you can rest what's it called, 5 or less. So again, you can see all the 2Ks we're using is like either you can play them. Like I know some decks.
Yeah, they have some versatility.
They're
exactly.
not just 2Ks, and you're like, oh, I guess sometimes I have a dead hand. Like sometimes you can play Sanji. You can play Usohachi to like at least fight board, like rest a blocker and like fight for board. And the other 2K we're using, which is also usable, which is Kamazo. What's it called? Hitakori Kamazo. There's another 2K that you actually can't play. Well, the effect is your turn. If you, when you lose a 1 Dawn, when you minus a Dawn on your turn, you can pop 2 or less. So in certain matchups, it can come handy. For example, against Luffy, you can pop the Teach, the blue Teach. Against Teach, the black Teach, you can pop their the Hogbacks. You can pop their Searchers. Against even some green decks, you can pop like 2 drop Rocinantes. You can pop their Searchers. So you don't have to waste an attack. So certain situations where like if you're against Teach, you will usually want to pressure. Sometimes just drop in a 4/5, and then if you have another effect that can minus Dawn at the same turn, like or like a following turn, like to set up, like you play this 1 turn and the next turn you play like even a Luffy Taro, even though they cancel the what's it called the on plays. There's some situations where like okay, I'll minus a Dawn and I'll still get an effect where I pop. I don't have to go for you don't waste an attack. So I think I've seen a lot of people in the East actually run Kamazo now. Cool. This used to be like the Frankie because it's searchable, but I think having the utility, I like having 2Ks that you can play or use for 2K. Yeah. And all of these, you can play them on the field and it's as good as maybe any other cards.
Yeah, cool. We'll edit this out, it's fine.
And then we're going to go for the blockers.
Yep.
So we go for 2 cost blockers. We're running 2 Nico. This is just a low chump block blocker, and it's searchable by Law and your Zorjoro. And the other blockers you obviously run is the Nami. Again, it is searchable by Zorjoro and Law. This on play, pitch a card and draw 2. So you can see in this deck, you can draw your non-engines as well, because this can pitch, draw 2, and then your event as well. Let me find it here.
I feel like this match will just boil down to the end, just you can beat face faster.
Your event here as well, pitch, draw 2. This can draw as well. Luffy lets you draw. So you have a lot of ways in this deck, and Sangoro as well, actually, yeah. Sangoro lets you draw. So you have a lot of draw power and a lot of searching. So you could find your pieces, and even the non-engine pieces, you probably could draw into them as well. Like you can.
So the deck seems fairly consistent,
it's very
right?
consistent. Yeah. In my level, it's like I haven't seen a more consistent deck, honestly, in the game for a while. Maybe like Sakazuki, where he pitches a card every turn to draw a card. Other than that, I haven't seen a more consistent deck. And then I know people are a bit controversial in this. I'm running 3 kid and 1 queen. They're like, okay, why are you not running the 4 kid? Honestly, sometimes towards late games, like I want the extra draw. Again, I know it's greedy, like, oh, you have enough draw, but sometimes you want the extra draw power here. And I wanted another maybe sometimes minus for the Kamazo. So against like Teach, I can go like 4 cost Kamazo and then 5 cost Queen, and then Kamazo can pop their like their dock. You know, so it comes in handy for some. But usually they play. The reason you play these anyway, you want to play them is if you're against Teach, they're gonna, you know, obviously want to take first from you, so you don't have the better curve. And then on top of that, if you go 2 and then 4, you take a life, so you can play a 5 cost.
Yeah, nice.
So the reason a lot of purple Luffys are playing these is because to do something on their, if you go second, something on their turn 2 play. But yeah, that's the deck.
Yeah, anything else to add?
Yeah, this deck is, I don't know, like how do you even make this deck? Like it struggles, I think, against sometimes green if they just play kid and they have a lot of blockers, but Kamazo can deal with that and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So if somehow purple gets removal, I think then this deck will be like it already removed something with like the Kaido.
Just play black purple Luffy.
Black purple Luffy, maybe that's something to think about. But yeah, purple Luffy, very consistent deck. And yeah, I would recommend for most players. It's very beginner friendly in that way as well. The deck pilots itself in a way.
Nice.
And decision making for better players is towards late game, right? When do you want to use the events to -2, right? You know, the early game is like, well, Searcher, Luffy, Tier, Sangoro, and from there is where the player then can have choices to do after.
Cool.
But the early game is easy.
Great. All right. Thanks very much for that, Hassan.
Thank you.
Nice one.